These are the features that once defined the American automobile, gave it personality, gave it soul, and then vanished. Not because drivers wanted them gone, but because regulations, economics, and the relentless march of technology quietly erased them from the roads. Pop-up headlights, T-tops, hood ornaments, tailfins, vent windows, manual transmissions. Every single one of them shaped how we think about cars today, and every single one of them is either extinct or on the edge of extinction. This is the story of how the car lost its character, one feature at a time. Let's start with something that almost every car enthusiast born after the year 2000 has never actually seen on a new car: pop-up headlights. If you grew up in the 80s or 90s, you remember them. That sleek, smooth nose on a sports car, and then with the flick of a switch, the headlights would rise from the hood like the car was waking up, blinking open its eyes. It was mechanical theater. It was personality. And it all started not as a design statement, but as a workaround. The year was 1936. The Cord 810, built by the Auburn Automobile Company, became the first production car to feature pop-up headlights. But the reason they existed had nothing to do with looking cool. In the United States, Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard 108, enforced by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA, governed where headlamps had to sit on a vehicle, specifically between 22 and 54 inches above the road surface. That created a problem for low-slung sports cars. If you wanted to build a car with a nose that hugged the pavement, your headlights would sit too low to be legal. Pop-up headlights were the elegant solution. Tuck the lights away when you don't need them, and when you do, raise them up to the legal height. Compliance disguised as cool. The concept lay relatively dormant until 1962, when the Lotus Elan became the first mass-produced car to bring pop-up headlights back in earnest, a sleek British sports car that proved the design worked at scale. From there, the feature crossed the Atlantic and embedded itself in American car culture. And cool it was. The feature exploded in popularity through the 70s, 80s, and 90s. The Mazda Miata, the Mazda RX-7, the Chevrolet Corvette, the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, which gained a whole new level of fame as KITT in the TV show Knight Rider. That semi-sentient car with its scanning red light and those iconic pop-up headlights helped cement the feature in popular culture. Enthusiasts even discovered that if you pressed the activation button quickly enough, you could get one headlight to pop up while the other stayed down, making the car appear to wink. Fun in a parking lot, a legitimate safety hazard on a dark highway. American muscle got in on the act too, though with a different approach. The 1968 Dodge Charger didn't use traditional pop-ups. Instead, it featured a full-width concealed grille design that hid its headlights behind vacuum-operated doors, flush with the front fascia. It was a distinctly American solution, brute force drama rather than Japanese mechanical precision, but the same impulse: hide the lights until you need them. So why did they disappear? There was no single law that said pop-up headlights are now illegal. That's actually a common misconception. They were never explicitly banned. What happened was subtler and, in some ways, more devastating. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, the European Union introduced strict pedestrian safety standards. Bodies like Euro NCAP, the European New Car Assessment Program, began testing how car front ends performed in collisions with pedestrians, and those results carried enormous market weight. These regulations required that the front ends of cars be smoother, rounder, and more forgiving in the event of a collision with a pedestrian. A hard-edged pop-up mechanism protruding from the hood was exactly the kind of thing these rules were designed to eliminate. No single regulation killed them. The cumulative weight of international safety standards, driven by both NHTSA in the United States and Euro NCAP testing in Europe, made them impossible to justify. The last production car to feature pop-up headlights was the 2004 Chevrolet Corvette C5. After that, the lights stayed down for good. And here's the irony that still frustrates enthusiasts today. Those same pedestrian safety standards that effectively ended pop-up headlights on small, low sports cars seem to have very little to say about the massive, blunt-faced pickup trucks and SUVs that now dominate American roads. A 2-ton truck with a hood at chest height gets a pass,
But a Miata with retractable headlights was deemed too dangerous.
That contradiction hasn't gone unnoticed. Now let's climb up to the roof. Specifically, let's talk about T-tops. If pop-up headlights were the eyes of a car, T-tops were its soul. The perfect compromise between a hardtop coupe and a full convertible, T-tops were two removable panels in the roof separated by a central bar that ran from the windshield to the rear of the cabin. Pull them out, stow them in the trunk, and suddenly your coupe was an open-air cruiser. Leave them in and you had a solid, weather-tight roof. The idea goes back further than most people realize. In 1948, an automotive designer named Gordon Buick, best known for his earlier work on the Duesenberg Model J, was working on a prototype called the Tasco, short for the American Sports Car Company. Inspired by airplane cockpits, Buick designed split removable roof panels made of curved plexiglass. He received a patent for the design in 1951, but it wouldn't reach mass production until 1968, when Chevrolet offered T-tops on the C3 Corvette. They sold so well, in fact, that Chevy discontinued the standard convertible Corvette altogether. The T-top had won. From there, the features spread everywhere: Mustangs, Camaros, Firebirds, the Nissan 300ZX, the Toyota MR2, even oddities like the Subaru Brat and the Suzuki X90. For 3 decades, T-tops were shorthand for fun, but they had a fundamental engineering problem. Cutting 2 holes in the roof of a car and relying on a thin center bar for structural integrity is not ideal when that car rolls over. As safety standards evolved, particularly around roof crush resistance and rollover protection, T-tops became increasingly difficult to engineer to spec. The structure was simply too compromised. General Motors, which had been both the birthplace and the biggest champion of the T-top, was also the one to bury it. The Pontiac Firebird and Chevrolet Camaro were the last 2 cars you could buy with T-tops, and when both were discontinued in 2002, the feature died with them. The Corvette had already moved on, switching to a single targa panel design with the C5 generation in 1997 to work with its new hydroformed frame. More rigid, more safe, less fun. While we're talking about things that sat on top of the car, let's look at what sat on the very front: hood ornaments. For most of the 20th century, a hood ornament wasn't optional. It was the face of the brand. Cadillac had its Flying Goddess, introduced in 1930. Rolls-Royce had the Spirit of Ecstasy. Jaguar had its Leaping Cat. Mercedes-Benz had its 3-pointed star standing tall on the hood of every sedan. These weren't accessories, they were declarations. But hood ornaments actually started for a practical reason. More than a century ago, radiator caps sat on the outside of the car so drivers could monitor coolant temperatures by watching the water vapor. The ornament was originally a decorative cap, a way to dress up an ugly but necessary component. Once radiator caps moved inside the engine bay, the ornaments stayed purely for aesthetics and brand identity. The post-war era of the 1950s turned them into chrome sculptures, aviation-inspired symbols of speed and ambition. Then came 1968. The United States, through NHTSA, introduced federal standards for that model year that effectively prohibited fixed, stand-up hood ornaments. The concern was pedestrian safety. A rigid metal figure protruding from the front of a car could cause devastating injuries in a collision. Europe followed with its own regulations starting in 1974 with EU Directive 74/483/EEC targeting exterior projections. Cars that kept their ornaments had to redesign them to be spring-loaded to collapse or retract upon impact. The final blow came in 2005 when the European Union mandated minimum standards for pedestrian safety in frontal collisions. Rather than engineering different hoods for different markets, many global automakers simply removed their ornaments entirely. Jaguar dropped its iconic Leaping Cat from the hood. Tim Watson, VP of Marketing for Jaguar North America, summed up the sentiment with a remarkably candid quote: "We've taken a much more modern, svelte, and aerodynamic approach. Are customers crying out for them? I don't think they care." Not everyone agreed. Rolls-Royce refused to let the Spirit of Ecstasy die. Instead, they engineered it to retract into the hood when a collision is detected or when the doors are locked, a solution that costs thousands of dollars but preserves a tradition that stretches back over a century. Maybach kept its interlocking M's as well. For these ultra-luxury brands, the ornament isn't a decoration, it's a promise. Now, let's talk about something far less glamorous, but arguably more missed on a hot summer day. Vent windows. Also called wing windows, or by their original GM marketing name from 1933, no draft, individually controlled ventilation, later renamed the more manageable ventapanes. These were small triangular windows at the front of the side glass that hinged outward at an angle, scooping air into the cabin and directing it at the passengers. You have to remember that for much of automotive history, air conditioning was either unavailable or prohibitively expensive. Vent windows were the air conditioning of the common driver. Angled just right, they could push a breeze directly onto your face on a sweltering day without the full window-down buffeting that made conversation impossible. They were simple, effective, and beloved. The 1968 Camaros and Firebirds were among the first to drop them. By the 1990s, they were essentially gone from the market. Two things killed them. First, air conditioning became standard rather than optional, eliminating the primary reason vent windows existed. Second, aerodynamics. Automotive aerodynamics, specifically the drag coefficient of the overall body, became a primary engineering concern as fuel economy standards tightened, and a smooth, unbroken window surface creates measurably less drag than a hinged panel that can catch the wind. There was also a practical design conflict. As side mirrors migrated from freestanding mounts on the door to being integrated at the forward edge of the window area, the vent window frames got in the way. Science confirmed what engineers already suspected. Cars are actually more fuel efficient with all their windows closed and the air conditioner running, even accounting for the energy the AC compressor uses. Open windows increase aerodynamic drag enough to offset the fuel savings of turning off the AC, especially at highway speeds. The vent window was a casualty of efficiency. And then there's manual windows. Simple, mechanical, reliable. A hand crank connected to a gear mechanism that raised and lowered the glass. No motors, no switches, no electrical failures. The last new car sold in the United States with manual windows as an option was the 2018 Chevrolet Sonic. After that, every new car came standard with power windows. Manual windows were never banned. They simply became economically irrelevant. Assembly line standardization made it cheaper to install one power window package across an entire lineup than to engineer and stock manual alternatives. Speaking of manual, let's talk about the one that hurts the most: manual transmissions. In 1980, 35% of new American cars left the lot with a stick shift. Today, that number sits below 1%, the lowest level ever recorded. Only 27 models offered a manual for 2025. By the 2026 model year, that drops to 24. The decline is global. In Europe, manuals went from 89% of cars sold in 2000 to just 32% in 2022. In China, they dropped from 50% in 2017 to 4% in 2023. The truly painful part is that within enthusiast segments, manuals are thriving. 90% of Subaru BRZ buyers choose the manual, 85% of WRX buyers, 83% of Porsche 911 GT3 Touring buyers, 70% of Mazda MX-5 Miata buyers in 2024, up 10% from the previous year. The demand exists. The economics don't. Manufacturers can't justify the cost of engineering, certifying, and producing manual gearboxes for what amounts to a sliver of their total sales volume. There was a brief uptick in 2023 that fueled Save the Manuals hashtags and hopeful comparisons to vinyl records. Except vinyl actually staged a real comeback. Manuals got a blip. Analysts called it false hope, and subsequent data confirmed the slide continued. The Volkswagen Jetta GLI loses its manual after 2026. Mini stopped offering them entirely in 2024. The manual Toyota GR Supra 3.0 and BMW Z4 M40 ceased production in May 2026. The clock isn't just ticking, it's almost out of time. Then there are the features that feel like they belong to an entirely different universe. Tailfins. In 1941, General Motors design chief Harley Earl visited a U.S. military airfield and saw the P-38 Lightning fighter plane with its distinctive twin tail booms. That visit planted the seed for what would become one of the most dramatic styling movements in automotive history. The man who turned that vision into sheet metal was designer Frank Hershey, who translated Earl's P38 inspiration into the actual fins on the 1948 Cadillac. Despite initial mixed reactions at GM auto shows, where half the attendees disapproved, record sales proved the public loved them. Panicked executives had actually rushed to design a finless alternative, but the numbers spoke louder than the focus groups. The tailfin era peaked between 1955 and 1961, with fins reaching their most absurd and magnificent size in 1959. They had virtually no aerodynamic function, no drag coefficient benefit, no downforce, nothing the wind tunnel approved. As Witold Rybczynski, author of The Driving Machine, put it, the tailfin had about as much to do with serious car design as a hula hoop. But they served a different purpose entirely: planned obsolescence. Every year, manufacturers released models that were mechanically identical to last year's, but visually transformed. The goal was to make your neighbor's 2-year-old car look ancient. Tailfins were the most visible expression of that strategy. They died as fast as they grew. By 1961, Cadillac was already scaling them back, and within a few years, they were gone entirely. Consumer taste shifted toward cleaner, more modern lines, and the jet age exuberance that had fueled the fin craze gave way to a different kind of sophistication. There were others, too. Continental kits, those rear-mounted spare tires that sat above the bumper, popular through the early 1950s for their combination of style and function, freeing up trunk space while adding visual drama. They faded by the mid-1960s as styling evolved and the engineering required to make them practical, swinging the whole apparatus out of the way to access the trunk, became more trouble than it was worth. Bench seats up front where 3 people could sit across, side by side, making the car feel like a living room on wheels. Gone now, replaced by bucket seats and center consoles loaded with cup holders and armrests and airbags. Dagmar bumpers, those bullet-shaped chrome protrusions named after a 1950s television personality, giving cars like the 1958 Buick Limited a face that was equal parts menacing and glamorous. Cigarette lighters and ashtrays, once standard equipment for every passenger, front and rear, now vanished as smoking culture retreated. Each of these features represents a moment when the automobile was more than a transportation appliance, when cars had faces and moods and quirks, when getting behind the wheel felt like climbing into something with a personality distinct from every other machine on the road. Today, we drive safer cars, more efficient cars, cars that protect pedestrians better and pollute less and last longer. That progress is real, and it matters. But walk through a parking lot in 2026 and try to tell one crossover from another. They're all sculpted by the same wind tunnels, optimized for the same drag coefficients, governed by the same crash standards, processed by the same algorithms. The features we lost didn't just disappear. They took something with them, a certain recklessness of design, a willingness to be different even when different meant impractical. The car used to be a canvas for human ambition and eccentricity. Now it's a compliance document with wheels. And maybe that's the real lesson hidden inside all these vanished features. Progress doesn't just add, it subtracts. And what it subtracts, we don't always notice until it's already gone. That